Hello and welcome to Astro Mingle, the spiritual podcast that mingles with the talented light workers and innovative influencers of our time. We're always interested in exploring the mysteries of the conscious universe, and today's guest is a conscious astronaut of the universe. Bloom Post is a ceremonialist, a shaman healer, a teacher, an author, and she lives in the Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina. She walks between the worlds to receive information, insights, and guidance in order to empower healing transformation. She's the author of the book, Shaman's Toolbox, Practical Tools for Powerful Transformation, and Planet Spirit Totems. Bloom has been intentionally training on her path since 1999. Please welcome and send some waves of love and gratitude to my guest, Step 4 Pisces, Bloom Post. Hello.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Plant spirit totems, not planet.
Oh, did I say planet? That might have been
Yeah,
a
that's
slip of my
okay.
tongue.
You were in the zone with the planets. It's okay. I just didn't want people to think it was about planets because that's your medicine. I can't speak to that. It's about planets.
Well, now I saw plant in my mind, even though I said planet for the record, because actually I forgot to write questions about that. So let's actually just talk about it right now, since it's they've decided to introduce themselves. You did a book on plant medicine totems, basically, that just like an animal, there are plants that are our friends. Is that the basis?
Yeah, actually, just so over the years, I'm going to back up just a second and say thank you for having me here and
Sure.
watching your show. I've interviewed with you before. We've been buddies for a while. It's such a gift to witness you living into your destiny and your mission and the medicine that you bring. It was just, it's just really a blessing. And you have devoted your journey to being in service in this way. And I just really want to affirm that and reflect that as my little
Oh,
Piscean self. Just appreciation for you because I've watched you grow over the years and you were always gifted, but wow, this was just a mind-blowing show to watch. So it's been a lot of fun. And I want to say hi to
thank
my
you.
friends who are here tonight. Hi to all my new friends that I saw in the chat, chatting away. I couldn't even keep up with it. It's just so beautiful, the community you're creating and have created and how that's growing. And I'm just really happy to see you and happy to be here.
Thank
So
you, Bloom. You're the beautiful thing to say. Thank you. I
it's true.
appreciate it.
It's from
And
my
our community is your community. We are one.
day. I love that. I feel that. They feel like they're having a lot of fun too, and I'm here for that. So
You
plant
are.
spirit totems, I spent many years saying somebody needs to write a book about the plants similar to animal totem books. And then after about 10 years of griping about it, maybe it's my Piscean self, I was too lazy, as you just mentioned. I don't know.
So it
No,
can be or known to be, but
right.
aren't
No,
really.
I just kept thinking somebody's going to have time for this. But my guides finally said, Bloom, make time for this. You keep asking for it. It's because we want you to write it. So I wrote a book. It took about a year and a half, and obviously it can only cover what I could cover in a year and a half. I needed to spend time with each plant that I was writing about, whether I spent time with them physically, energetically, and shamanic journey, and really answering the basics of how they're here to be of support. And these can be flowers that are in your yard. These can be trees that you see on your drive home. These can be herbs that you eat for dinner. You know, this isn't just medicine used for ceremony. This is all plants because many years ago, many moons ago, I asked, you know, I was talking to, okay, let's just go ahead and get cosmic. So I was talking to
Yeah, go
these,
go for it.
let's go for it. I mean, your crowd can handle this. So I was
100%.
talking to these star beings, and they said the answers are in the plants.
Wow.
I said, what answers? And they said, what's your question? And
That's so
that
plant like. Yeah.
yeah, plants are super powerful. Plants carry, medicine that nourish us physically. They carry herbal medicine that can heal us. They carry spirit medicine that can guide us. And then obviously there's what's called master plants that are entheogen plants that you can also work with for psychotropic experiences if that's something that you're open to and comfortable with, that can then open up whole vistas, of experience and knowledge and wisdom. And that's really what's on my heart right now. I loved what you were sharing about it's the time to step out of the story that was like assigned to us almost
Yeah.
karmically and step into the story that we choose to live, that we really want. And I've had a hell of a lot of trauma in my childhood, but I've had an amazing life on this shamanic path. I'm not saying there weren't initiations and challenges, but it's been so healing and so expansive. And yet I am very much right in this place of going, oh yeah, this is getting ready to level up in a big way, because I feel real clear about what is not going to move forward with me and what needs to be set aside for now. And I loved what you shared about Pisces as a sun sign Pisces. Yeah, I'm excited about what you shared, because it's completely in alignment with what I'm experiencing. It's such, you spoke of things happening in the world that are challenging, and I don't live under a rock. I see that, I feel that, I witness it. And yet, oh my gosh, what a dynamic time to be alive. What a dynamic, powerful, potent time to embody our consciousness, our awareness, our the fullness of our true authentic selves, our destiny, our purpose, and to choose that consciously and not be in programs where we end up in something that we're like, this is not the destiny I thought I was manifesting.
Right.
We really have such an opportunity right now, and I'm loving it.
I'm loving it too. And way to be a cosmic Pisces and go from plants to the universe in the same breath. I
There's
love it.
plants, and then there's these star beings, and now we're all expansive and fifth dimensional. Yeah, that's basically that's a Tuesday for me, or a Friday night, right?
I love it. Well, and you're a 4-degree Pisces, which is a trans-dimensional Pisces, by the way. That's a Pisces that can Pisces are logged into spirit automatically. They're walking modems to God anyways. But then the 4 in your sign allows you to sort of like tune in specifically to certain dimensions or beings. It gives you sort of like a tuning crystal to get more specific, I would say, a superpower in that way.
Oh,
And just
that resonates. Yeah, I think for me the challenge was turning off some of those channels or filtering those channels. Growing up and being on this path, I was getting so much information that it's not. I can talk to anything as long as it wants to talk to me. That it's not certain things. It's pretty much anything, whether it's someone who's passed on or animal totems, plant totems, trees, like that, angels, doesn't matter. If it wants to talk in the realms, I can talk to it. So for me, the challenge was kind of finding a way to not feel overwhelmed by that. So I definitely resonate with what you're sharing.
yeah, you mentioned in your bio that you grew up having supernatural experiences in your teens and your 20s in particular. What exactly was that like? Was the tree saying hi to you as you walked by?
Not necessarily. You know, I think I might have been able to link in with that if my childhood had not been quite so challenging, but that was part of my initiatory experience that actually
Mhm.
helped me find my way to a path of healing and empowering others to heal. So that was part of my karma that I was clearing. You could say it that way as well. Um, I just knew things about people. I would sit next to somebody on a bus and just know, oh, this person's an alcoholic, or this person just had somebody who died, and just these psychic experiences were happening. And when I was younger, things would sometimes come into the room, and I would think that I was asleep and dreaming, and I might have a nightmare about it because I was just a kid. But I was seeing
Mm,
spirits and didn't understand, and it felt very tangible to me. And I didn't really talk about it very much because it
yeah.
didn't feel like there was a lot of receptivity to that, because nobody else was talking about it. And I remember one time I did say, I grew up in church, and someone was talking about praying, and they were asking me, and I was probably, I don't know how old I was, but I was young. And I said, oh yeah, well, when I talked to God, God said, and I just shared whatever I got, and that person was mortified.
Yeah.
God had actually answered. I'm like, well, who are you talking to? Like, what do you
Right.
mean? You just talk to them and they don't talk back. That's not a conversation. I didn't understand. And as soon as they reacted that way, I would just continually just
Quiet.
start to put it down, because I realized, oh, not everybody's having this experience. It's a
Yeah.
one-way conversation for a lot of people, whether it's God, spirit, source, divinity, whatever it is. So, and then I found my way to a shaman, which saved my life. And then it was easier because he was able to say, "Oh, this is a gift. This isn't a curse. This is
Mm.
was the first person in my life that let me know this is okay. These are your gifts. This is nothing to be ashamed of or fearful of. And so that's really what put me on the path. But yeah, there were definitely, I was also an empath because I grew up with a narcissist abuser in my life. And
Mm.
so I didn't know what an empath was. So I was also getting all sorts of information because I was just this sponge. And I'm sure lots of people that watch your show are empaths and totally resonating with what I'm talking about.
If you have a narcissist in your life and you're an empath, it's like you're psychically walking on eggshells. It's
Oh,
like
you're
you're like sensing what could happen. It's not even the actual abuse, it's the pre-manifest abuse, right? It's tough.
and the thing about an empath is that you're created by a narcissist. And
Oh, that's interesting.
I learned that from an amazing therapist who might be watching your show right now. And I hope I
Wow.
do her justice in the way I share this. But what I understood was you can come into this world as a highly sensitive person, but to be an empath, you're created by a narcissist because the way I would explain it is it's an annihilation energy. The narcissist energy is an energy of annihilation. So as a child, we need to kind of become that energy, kind of infuse with them in order to stay safe so that we can track them. So that, like you were talking about being on eggshells, so that we can track and keep ourselves safe. And then we just stay wide open like that, tracking all this energy, even when we leave home or whatever the situation is. And then we're taking that out into the world, but it's overwhelming. And
Mhm.
so I work with a lot of empaths just because that's been part of my journey, working with them to be able to walk in the world in a sensitive way while also having what you mentioned so many times tonight, healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
Healthy boundaries. And healthy boundaries can be challenging for an empath because it doesn't always feel safe.
No,
So,
it doesn't. Well, so I grew up in that same environment. Now I'm realizing you've just shifted my lid. Because I was like, wow, so I was created that way because I'm very empathic and I grew up with a very narcissist, also parent guardian. And yeah, you don't have any. Well, first of all, they intrude upon your boundaries. So boundaries are so foreign to you. Like you're always forced to be somewhat spiritually naked.
right.
And then to disconnect and put distance, there's a phobia there because if I can't read what's going on, then I could get swiped upside the head or something. So it's like you're afraid to isolate or segregate, I found.
Yeah, it's a very confusing situation to be in because you're consistently off balance emotionally and intuitively, and then you learn to stop trusting your intuition and stop trusting your gut, and then everything that
Right.
you know is true becomes upside down, and
Yeah.
then we go into the world and have forgotten how to trust our intuitive abilities and trust our gut and trust what our body is telling us. And often empaths will find a narcissist and end up being their power source in a relationship because
Yep.
narcissists need a power source. So yeah, I don't want to spend the whole time
Yeah.
talking about that, but I do believe that for me, learning that narcissists create empaths and they create narcissists, it was, and I'm not blaming anybody. It's just something that seems to have been passed down karmically and otherwise. And so to me, that was so enlightening and empowering to learn so that I didn't just think, oh, I'm like this. I'm so sensitive. What happened? Why can't I shift this? It's like, oh, this was a learned behavior. And
Hmm.
it also opened up my gifts, my psychic abilities, my intuitive abilities, my abilities to walk between worlds. I do believe I was called to this path either way, but growing up in that environment unwittingly actually set me up to already be able to link in so that all I needed to do was create a container, which Pisces need. I
Yeah.
had
They need the fishbowl.
I needed a fishbowl, and Shaman John, my very first teacher, I went to him and I have a TEDx talk where called Crazy in a Good Way because I went to him and said, I think I'm crazy. And this is what's going on. And he said, you might be crazy, but it's in a good way. Let me show you how to.
That's
And it
great.
changed my life and it kept me on the planet. It really kept me on the planet because it was just really hard to be here until I started working with him. I was 29 when
So
that
you,
happened.
oh, you're Saturn return. So did you seek out a shaman? Did you stumble into one?
No, I both.
Okay.
I had been looking. I had always been interested in mysticism and Buddhism and Taoism and all the isms, all the cool mystical things, and shamanism and indigenous cultures. And so I'd always been interested in that, but I didn't know how to find a shaman. And then a massage therapist, I was getting a massage and she said, "Oh, I had a shaman come clear the space." And I said, "I need his number." And because I just knew, I was like, here it is. And I had been reading Malidoma Patrice Somé. He passed away in the last couple years, an African shaman, so amazing. Highly recommend his books. But I had already been reading these books about shamanism, but just was still kind of in my own turmoil and not sure how to link in. And then, cosmic fate, just
Yeah.
get body work. And she said, "I met a shaman." And so he became my teacher. He's still my teacher as far as I'm concerned. He'll always be my teacher. But yeah, he really empowered me to step into my gifts in a huge way.
Do you feel you were a shaman in a past life, or do you feel this is the first round?
Hmm. That's an interesting. Let me take a sip of water and think about that for a moment.
Fish goes back in the water first.
Yeah. That, I've not really, I've seen past lives where I definitely have spent time in the monastery, like the Buddhist monastery, maybe even Christian monasteries. I definitely resonate with like the desert fathers and the desert mothers. And um, I can start chanting a Buddhist mantra and just be like, "Whoom," and my voice will get really low and I'll go into "Whoom, whoom, whoom,"
Mm.
and I'm right there on the mountaintop in the cold monastery on that rock floor. And I've seen that a lot. I don't know if I was a shaman in other lifetimes. I know I've definitely, it's funny, I haven't looked. I've
Oh,
mostly looked at the lifetimes that needed healing. I think that I've spent most of my maybe I need to just go look for the lifetimes where I had a hell of a lot of fun. Never occurred to me to do that. Thank you for shifting my mindset. But I've definitely spent a lot of time as a warrior,
hmm.
and have a lot of lineage in this lifetime, in my birth lineage, because I'm adopted, but in my birth lineage, lots of priests, ministers, um, who are the ones who go to other countries and proselytize, missionaries, lots and lots of that in my lifetime. And I needed to honor that while also stepping out of those programs so that I could move on my journey in the way I needed to. And that really upset some of my ancestors who had made some vows on behalf of those who would come after them. And so I needed to work with that. That was a long time ago, and yeah, I moved through that. But I don't feel the resonance of a shaman per se using that language in another lifetime, but I do feel the resonance of leadership and teacher, and someone who it was very mystic. I definitely have mystical lifetimes for sure. And I
Were
think in
you?
this lifetime, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you,
No,
but
go ahead.
when I was trying to figure out what my gifts were, and literally we're talking like early 2000s, like 2001, 2002, I'm trying to figure out how to share. I've been studying for a few years, trying to figure out how to share my work with people. Shamanism seemed to be the only umbrella big enough that I could be everything within it, because I wasn't only doing psychic work, I wasn't only doing healing work, I wasn't only, it wasn't that clear a thing. It was and plant medicine became part of it, ceremony became part of it, singing medicine songs, soul retrieval, past life work, lineage karma clearing, like all these things I started learning from my guides and my teachers, and I needed an umbrella big enough.
Mhm.
So that's really where the shamanic piece came in. And so I don't
And
know if I started today what I would call it.
well, and that's my next question. First of all, you wear the. I was just going to say you wear the mysticism very comfortably, so that's where the question is. But it could very well be a Buddhist up in the mountains. There's many sects of high spirituality. Well, in your own Americanized, you know, pop culture words, what is a shaman? How do you define that?
Yeah, in an American from North Carolina, white girl pop terminology.
Yeah.
I want to clarify that that is because there's anthropological studies and information about this that would say it differently. But for me, it really is someone who walks between worlds to empower healing and is open to stepping into those altered states in order to gain wisdom and bring wisdom to others and take people through those altered states so that they can experience that awakening and awareness for themselves. I think for me, that's a big piece of it that differentiates it from other walks. There's different tools that might be similar, but going into those altered states, I don't necessarily look like I'm going into an altered state when I'm doing a session with someone. When I'm preparing for ceremony, I'm not, I work with different plants that are not psychotropic as well. And most people don't know I'm in an altered state because there's obvious ways to do it and there's more subtle ways to do it, where I can track and be working the energy and people just think I'm having a conversation. So
That's interesting.
yeah, so that's part
So
of what makes it a little different.
so we could be at Starbucks and you could be on Neptune and I wouldn't even know it, I guess.
Yeah, and I can step into a space and I've taught myself not to track and not get information and not leave. I had to teach
Oh,
how to stay in my body and not need to be tracking everybody. Um, because I can walk into a room and just get the information very quickly. And I don't want to intrude on people's personal lives. I don't like it when people do that to me, so I don't do that
yeah.
to them. When I was younger, I was trying to stay safe. I didn't realize I was tracking people, but now I have an awareness of that. So I walk with it in a more, what I would hope is more spiritually mature way. But I was at a retreat in Peru a couple weeks ago, and I was sitting next to a person, and he said, "Well, this is what's going on with my neck, and it hurt." And as soon as he said it, I saw what happened in a past life to cause it. I didn't mean to
Oh,
see it. It just it just was there. It was like playing out while he's talking. And I said, "I just saw this information. Are you open to it?" And I told him, and it just blew his mind because he was like, "How did you know that? That's exactly what's going on in my life today, minus some of the drama that I saw from the past life." It wasn't literally what happened in that past life, but it was the same relationships. And so, yeah, sometimes it does pop in like that, but I always ask permission, if it pops in and they didn't hire me to tell them that. If someone's in a session with me, I presume I have permission to
right.
look. But this was someone that we were eating lunch next to each other, and we were at a spiritual retreat, at a plant medicine retreat. So the energy was kind of open to it, but I
Yeah.
didn't mean to see it. It just showed up, you know.
Well, I kind of feel too, like when you have, it's kind of difficult if someone doesn't want you to see something, you won't. That's one thing I've noticed. Like I can't get beyond a person's boundaries in a psychic reading. And I'll tell them like I don't think you want the answer to that because I'm getting a flat. So my point is when they turned to you and complained about their neck, to me, it's almost an invitation, you know, not literal, but the soul was wanting to know, almost like we knew. Maybe they knew that you could see or something.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, he definitely felt open to it. I did do a session just recently where she told me what she wanted to work on, and then my guides were like, ask her about this. Ask her about, and she was like, no, no. And they said, ask her. And they literally were like, keep bugging her. Keep bugging her. That's where it is. And so I just found new ways to keep asking the same question. And finally, and I went, oh, that's what we're working with. Yeah, I knew it was there. I just have to tease it out because it's not really where she was conscious that we needed to go. She wasn't keeping it from me. It just wasn't conscious to her. But it was so funny to hear my guides. I've never heard them say, keep bugging her, keep bugging her, keep bugging her. And I was like, okay, okay, I'll keep, so I know that feeling of when there's something we need to excavate, but it's not necessarily time for it to come up. But in that moment, it was time. So they didn't, I was going to let it go, but they asked me not to. And then we really got to go deep and it was wonderful. But I know those spaces you're talking about where you can see something that maybe isn't as obvious to the other person because it's theirs. I mean, we have our own shadows and blind spots where we need reflection, right? So yeah, just walking that just with love and compassion and integrity is important.
And it seems, looking at your backstory, it's almost like you specialize in shadow work. It seems like in traumas and healing. Is that true, or has that just been where the work's been?
Well, I feel that, and I'm sure a lot of people who watch you who are healers, and maybe even if they don't consider themselves that, will get this. what we often do, the work we often do with others is the work we needed to do, is the work that we're
Hmm.
doing, right? So I had a lot of shadow work to do from my childhood and my 20s, teens and 20s. And so I worked with people around a lot of what I, even if it wasn't the exact same thing or the exact same story, it was a similar thing that I could resonate with and they could resonate with me. And so I spent a lot of time, what I call in the trenches, like really doing deep shadow work with people. And it's not that I don't still do that, but I've noticed over the years as my work levels up and shifts, I tend to go into different phases where I still do shadow work with people, but it feels more expansive now. I find people really uh, open and willing and receptive in a way that maybe not so much 15 years ago, because I'm more open and receptive and I'm better at what I do because I keep practicing and training and learning and doing it, you know. Um, so I'm really excited to work with people. I will work in the trenches, and I also choose that the people I work with now are open and receptive and really want to heal and level up and be expansive and live into their divine mission. And so those are the kind of people showing up. And that's exciting. You
Have
know,
you
there's
seen that shift since COVID? Like I noticed, I just particularly as a light worker noticed like since COVID in particular, a huge
mm,
opening.
I do think there has been an opening. It's interesting. I feel like it took a little while. It wasn't immediate. Like we didn't come
No.
out of lockdown and everybody was like, "Oh, let's heal." But I've noticed I'm feeling the energy amping up, like a train that just starts picking up steam. Yeah, and it's definitely, especially, I'd say for me personally, over the last 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, it's really been picking up steam. It wasn't
Mm.
it wasn't finished or done before. I was still working and doing the things, but it's especially over the last little bit, it's really been picking up. And then for me personally, and I'm assuming this is just because my chart or whatever, but since July, I would say, holy moly, like it's been on. And so I've been wonderfully busy, and just lots of people really ready to expand and awaken, and I too am stepping into more expansiveness and consciousness, and I'm shifting and healing. So I'm in this ride with everybody else, you know. We all bought the ticket, we're all taking the ride, right? So yeah, I've
Yeah.
definitely seen that momentum really pick up steam, which
Well,
I'm thrilled about.
Saturn in a Pisces in March for the first time since 93 to 95. And I think Saturn was probably on top of your sun somewhere in July, just for astrological reference for those out there who might be curious, which is great. I love having real empirical feedback from someone who's aware and paying attention. Are you finding that your own stories of shadow are kind of coming to a close or full circle now in this last few months? I mean, it's never over. We're always learning, but it feels like those old stories are just getting old.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I wouldn't have phrased it the way you just did until I watched your show tonight, and now the way you're phrasing it totally resonates and makes sense. The What I noticed, especially in the last even couple weeks, is that some of those old stories that I've done so much freaking healing around, you know, when you're just like, this old chestnut again, really?
Right.
Uh, you're back, really? Haven't we done this before? We've danced enough. I need a new partner. But what I've noticed is that it's not the story anymore. It's really the seeds. Really.
Ah,
It's like having crabgrass in your yard and you pull it up and you think you've got it, but there could be a root like 10 feet away because that's why grass is so prolific. So I feel like those tendrils are really coming out. And that's not been super comfortable, I'll be honest. And then once I go, wait, I'm being in resistance to this. Let me look at this. Let me really feel into what you were talking about feelings. That's so vital. What am I feeling in this moment? What am I actually feeling so that I can be with that and get clear on whether that's happening now or whether that happened 40 years ago? And so, really being able to be with my body and the awareness that it carries in a whole new way, while also clearing, transmuting, and transforming that body memory. Because I
Hmm.
feel totally clear with all that stuff that happened as a kid, and my body still has these seeds where it's going, are you sure? Because this feels real familiar, and what this might be good now, but it wasn't good back then. And so really being with my body right now and allowing my body to have its experience and letting my body know it's safe. This is actually a good thing. It's okay to let go. It's okay to not be in control. It's okay to, be with plant medicine and allow the consciousness of spirit, source, God, divinity to become one with that. I mean, it sounds kind of blissful, but it doesn't feel like that when you think you're being annihilated.
Yeah.
So that's literally some of the stuff I've been sitting with the last couple weeks after coming back from ayahuasca ceremonies. And it's been really amazing to just start relaxing in a way that I didn't even know I wasn't relaxed.
That's a very good point you bring up, actually. I'm so glad you did too, because it's not talked enough about in our community, but our body is the embodiment of our soul, sort of like the hard drive that records all this into the flesh. And a lot of us go through this process. I mean, I just broke my left foot a couple weeks ago, which to me was the same shift you're talking about. It's just like, oh, I'm over this crack. I'm like, oh man, what? And it's like, because your body has to sort of get the memo and has to release the memory of the physical memory of it also, or it's almost like it can re-pollute or re-tarnish or ruin the vibe of our enlightenment. So it's twofold. It's both spirit and also body. You mentioned you brought up ayahuasca. That's one of my questions while it's hot on the table. It seems like ayahuasca. Now, I don't know if it's me. I never know if it's me. I'm a Leo rising, so I assume everything is the way I see it. Okay. But I'm wise enough to know that's not how reality works. It seems like ayahuasca got really popular like in the last 10 years. Like the first time I heard it, I had to look up how to spell it. I still have to look up how to spell it. But like and now it's like it's coming out on TikTok videos, it's coming out from certain celebrities. Has it grown in popularity, or is it just that we're more spiritual now? But it's like, it seems like there's like TripAdvisor trips down to Peru now. It's like something I can get on Expedia.com almost.
Yeah. You can write a Yelp review now about your ayahuasca experience. I mean,
That's
what?
funny. A Yelp review.
But
Great experience. Saw some dogs.
now, right. I think it's both. I think there's more people who are open to having visionary plant medicine experiences, and also one of my teachers, Hamilton Souther, he went to Peru as a youngin, straight out of college in the early 2000s, and was trained traditionally. And someone from, I think, writing for National Geographic or something, or the New York Times, Washington Post, he ended up having stories written about him and the work in all of them, in all of those publications back in the mid 2000s, because a writer came and had this incredible miraculous healing experience. And so she wrote about it. And then, so it really was picking up steam in the mid 2000s, 2005, 6, 7, 8, really picking up steam. And
Okay.
then I think it's become more and more mainstream, especially as social media picks up on it and famous people start talking about it. And also as we're finally decriminalizing plants that create healing. Cannabis can be very healing. CBD and all of these things that have been taken from us can actually create powerful healing for people. And I don't even just mean spiritual healing, I mean physical healing. Um, and
Yes.
ayahuasca and San Pedro and different medicines, mushrooms. And there's so much microdosing with mushrooms now,
That's
which can,
another one. Yes.
and it can repattern and rewire the brain. It can help with so many things. I mean, just so much. And it can give that plant medicine support. And when you microdose, you don't have to have a psychotropic experience. It doesn't have to be psychedelic to receive the medicine. I'm a big proponent of it doesn't have to be psychedelic to heal. And
Mm.
so microdosing is another thing that's become much more acceptable. So they're starting to decriminalize these, what I would call medicines, because they were called drugs for so long. Um,
Hmm.
I think there's a big difference between drugs and medicine. That's my personal opinion. So I think part of the world shifting, and the plants really do carry the answers. They really do. And herbalism can do so much. I create essences. And so I even create essences of these master plants so that if you want to link with one of these master plants, but you don't really feel called to drink it, you can still connect with the spirit of it, because essences are another potent way that just, it's like a flower essence, like box remedies or something.
Hmm.
I create them and I do my mojo over them. And so there's all sorts of different ways to work with these plant medicines. And it's like food. Food is medicine. And when you put plants in your body, it's a big difference between that and, some sweets or junk food or fast food or whatever. I'm not dissing junk food or fast food. It's been in my body too. I'm just saying we recognize the difference between medicine for the body and not, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and going back to how we open up this conversation, I mean, we talk about the dinosaurs and whatnot. It's like, but the plants were here way before everyone. Where, I've heard stories that fungi are from other planets, like they're not even from Earth. That fungi are like aliens; they look like aliens. I've also heard that ayahuasca is like a divine feminine, and like peyote is divine masculine. Is that true? As
Yeah,
far as sort of similar roles?
yeah. The ayahuasca is referred to as La Madre, the mother, and San
Okay.
Pedro Abuelo, the grandfather.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Obviously, plants aren't necessarily male or female per se. It just depends on your connection with them, but that's how they've traditionally been understood and perceived and received.
Hmm.
So yeah, I refer to her as La Madre, and San Pedro, I call him Abuelo. And San Pedro is a cactus, which is
Okay.
legal to grow. You can grow them all over your yard if you have the kind of space for it. You're just not supposed to harvest it.
Yeah, just
So
don't. Yeah,
it's just kind of weird how the laws are set up anyway.
right.
It's the
Right.
whole thing just seems, you can have as much alcohol as you want
Right.
because it's called spirits for a reason. And I've never seen anybody like, link with, anyway, I won't even go into that. I'm just
Yeah,
saying
I see your point.
what's available to us is definitely dampening and kind of shutting things down as opposed to opening up our expansiveness and our consciousness. And I think that's been very intentionally done.
I think so too. I mean, it seems very intentional, clear. And not alcohol is a plant that rots. It's not just a plant. It's a plant that's rotted and died and fermented.
Yeah.
So it's a plant that's been through hell.
And
That
I'm
we're
not,
drinking. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm not opposed to drinking alcohol at all. I mean, I
Right.
just feel like what we've chosen to legalize and make available is
Yeah.
is interesting for sure.
There's
Yeah.
some, it's funny. There must be some wisdom running things to shut down the wisdom. You know what I mean? Like, so it's clear and known, and I think there's been a lot of growth with just cannabis, like people, a lot of relaxed views and stuff and open-mindedness due to cannabis, becoming legal. I've seen that, unfold. I was in California and saw it go through its whole legalization process, and just seeing even the attitude in clubs change, going out when I was in my 20s and 30s and just smelling pot in the club, and just the different attitude, the more relaxed in the club than the pure alcohol. It's pretty clear. So what does ayahuasca open up? What does it open us up to on that experience, on that journey? I've heard people who take it speak to her, refer to as a pronoun her.
Well, the first thing I want to say is go sit with someone who is accredited and can be trusted. Don't just grab
Yes.
a thing on TripAdvisor. I definitely recommend Hamilton Souther. I trust him. He's incredibly gifted, very experienced, and he's someone that I work with that medicine. It's not something that you just ingest casually, in my opinion. That's
From everything I've heard, I will completely back that up with all the my clients are very open about their journeys. And yes, yeah, I wasn't suggesting that by making a club joke and putting that in context to ayahuasca.
I just wanted to put that caveat in there first
That
since we're
disclaimer.
about
Yeah.
it, because sometimes in other groups there might be people who are like, "Oh, great, I want to try it." I don't think your group is like that, but sometimes in plant medicine communities, there's this enthusiasm to just jump in. I'm like, setting, container, very important. Um,
Yeah.
what ayahuasca opens up is a little different for everybody. She
Okay.
really knows how to go exactly where you need. She
Okay.
knows to go exactly to what you need for healing, for support, for clarity. Um, and she can really create miraculous healing, whether it's physical, mental, emotional. Um, it's She can also reflect what you're bringing. When I first started working with her, I had a lot of fear, and so I got a lot of fear in my experience. And then she said, "This is how you learn to learn as a child. You learn to learn through fear. You're learning in the ceremony the way you understand how to learn." And I said, "Well, I don't like it." She said, "Well, then don't do it that way." And I went, "Oh, right. Okay, this is on me. You're not doing this to me. I learned through fear as a child, so I keep recreating this experience." Got it.
Mm.
So, but very, very powerful, especially when you're with a ceremonialist who really knows their medicine. And being in the jungle where she grows is powerful too. I do want to just interject that I don't lead ayahuasca ceremonies.
Okay.
But I do lead cacao ceremonies, and cacao is not psychotropic, and anybody listening can sit with that anytime. And I think of her as a she. Cacao is the basis of chocolate. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful plant medicine. Just make sure you source from, don't source like Hershey's or one of those big,
Right.
no diss to them, but a lot of them have slave labor for the cacao beans. And so we
Our
really
community knows this. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you have a very aware community, which I love. So there's places online to get it, or you can even email me and I can turn you on to where I get cacao because I get it from Costa Rica from an indigenous tribe and it's raw and it has no caffeine in it. It's amazing. So heart
Wow.
opening. I also work with tobacco in sacred ceremony, not in a
Yeah.
smoke ceremony, but with tobacco tea. I won't go into all that now, but tobacco, I grow tobacco for ceremonial purposes. I don't smoke, but I use it for ceremonial purposes. And I have a pipe if I need it for limpias, which are clearings and healings. So, um, and as I said, I work with essences, and so I love to call in the tree medicines, and I do dietas, which is a traditional. Um, well, in Peru, it's a traditional way of linking with the plants, and again, I won't go into all the details there, but there's different ways to work with plants that aren't necessarily ayahuasca as well, and still receive potent, powerful healing every day. Even the microdosing with mushrooms that we talked about, if you have access to that. I don't want people to feel like ayahuasca is the only way. Um,
No, it's
there's
just been a definite buzzword. And in Peru, for instance, is it regarded as medicine and ceremonial? Like when you're in those contexts, is the intention going in a healing or a visual journey of some sort?
Well, for those of us coming from the West, generally we're going for ceremony. For the indigenous people, they only use it when they need something healed. They're not
Okay.
going to go in, traditionally. I don't know how much this is changing as other countries become more westernized and
Mm.
start to mimic the US and Europe and other Western societies, but traditionally they didn't really have words for depression and all the things that Westerners deal with mentally. That wasn't really an issue when they were living in an indigenous way. So they didn't need to sit with ayahuasca very often unless there was something that needed healing, usually a physical healing or maybe an emotional, psychological ailment. But it was something you only did if you were going to have something healed. Now, it's become something that's being used more regularly, especially by Westerners, probably because we need it. We've got all this mental stuff going on. And so, I mean, I suppose people could maybe try to use it in a different way, but I've only ever seen it used with intention and for healing because that's really what she does. It's not, you can smoke cannabis and just be high and have a good time. I've never known anybody to really do that with ayahuasca. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I don't know them. It's not
Mhm.
that kind of medicine. It's not a sit around and giggle and get the munchies kind of medicine. It's a deeply and a no diss to cannabis. Cannabis can be very healing too,
Right.
but
Yeah.
yeah, she's deeply healing and it's very visual and
Mhm.
but yeah, it is going in with the intention of ceremony, healing. Everybody's bringing their intentions for what they want support with. And then, depending on who you're working with, the shaman, ceremonialist will sometimes do individual limpias, which are clearings, healings, if that's something that you need. Um, So yeah, I mean, but I can't really say it's like this for people because it's really an individualized experience. But it is visual, it is psychedelic, and it's deep.
Yeah, it appears to be. I mean, I've had enough clients seen before after to see the powerful shift, um and how they worked finally got past something that they were really hung up on quite often and really had great understanding. And they also, felt called to it. There were signs that came up in their life, much like you getting, in a massage introduction to a shaman. Like, it seemed to be divinely orchestrated. It wasn't just some idea from TripAdvisor, so yeah, I see the power in that. Now, what about cacao? You said it opens up the heart.
Big heart opener. She's a vasodilator and and she hits the serotonin receptors in the brain, similar to cannabis, but not psychedelic at all, not altering in that way. Just cacao is such a heart opening medicine. It's called the food for the shift. What you feel creating that expansive energy is called theobroma, which is
Hmm.
um, which is translates as food of the gods, theobromine. And so it's it's a superfood like maca or different herbs. And so she's a superfood and very much works with the heart. Big heart medicine. And sometimes we have cacao ceremony tomorrow, and I was prepping for that, as I was, also prepping to sit with you. Sometimes that opening of the heart can create feelings of profound bliss, and sometimes it creates, it allows the grief to finally come up and move, and it can look different for everybody. People definitely are in touch with their emotions, in a cacao ceremony. I always have a couple boxes of tissues on hand because people when we just do our introductions and they've been drinking the medicine, and they'll go, "Hi, my name's," I don't know why I'm crying. I'm just so glad to be here. And it's kind of like that. And it's very sweet, and it really empowers people to get in touch with. You were talking about we've got to live from our heart now.
Yes, that's exactly where I'm leading with this. Yeah.
And cacao is so vital for that. She's so supportive with that. Um and she'll give you, I mean, you can get some cacao that's been roasted, so it might have a little caffeine, but you can also find raw cacao that does not. And if you drink it without like clobbering it with a lot of dairy and tons of sugar and all these spices and things, you can do that. You can drink it like hot chocolate. But the way I like to work with her is to really just have cacao paste heated up in water and maybe a touch of sweetener because life is short, doesn't need to be bitter. But it's a little bitter. It doesn't taste like chocolate. It's not processed like that. And just really be with the medicine. And I used to drink her regularly, and I would set my intentions, drink some cacao, and then go live my day. And I could be at the grocery store and just be so full of love for the bag boy and the person ringing up my grocery. Not that I was not loving them before, but I just wasn't so overtly feeling it, but I was totally sober. It's just my heart was so open, and I was just so grateful. And it's just such a beautiful reminder of being in that space, or if you're needing to come back to that space because of challenges you've been having. She's beautiful at bringing into your heart and just bringing you back to the love, and like you were talking, like supporting us and really then living from that heart space. She's great medicine for that.
Do you think that chocolate today has somehow stomped on that magical property with the way it's processed today? I mean,
Um,
people are addicted to chocolate, and and
yeah,
it's yummy. There's no question. But I wonder if, like, the processing, the chemicals, the treatment, all that, if it ends up kind of stomping on the medicine, or do you think there's a little hint of medicine in there?
oh, there's definitely medicine in there. I don't think we can
Okay.
completely stomp it out, but at the same
Okay.
time, what we're really looking for is that serotonin boost. And we're really
Okay.
looking for that heart opening. And and sometimes at the end of it, you might even feel, because of the chemicals, the way they work in our body, then you'll feel a little tryptophan sometimes. So you'll feel really calm, might even get a
Mm.
little sleepy after that first rush of bliss and love. I feel like the bigger, and you mentioned, I can't remember what sign you were speaking to, but something about letting go of sugar.
Yeah.
And I think a big aspect of what has kind of dampened a lot of the medicine we bring into our body, whether it's food or plant medicine, is sugar, refined sugar.
Yeah.
I love refined sugar, but I had to give up sugar. I just had to give it up. I had to step away from it and not let it be a daily part of my world because as a kid, it was. I mean, we were Gen X, man. We ate all the things. We
For
drank out of
breakfast.
yeah,
Like we
exactly.
started with cereal sugar. We
Oh
went
my,
on to sugar-based lunch, Lunchables.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel
Yeah.
like that sugar piece. And so what I did was I did a dieta with sugar cane. I ordered some sugar cane and from a grower, and I just put it in water and let it just hang out in spring water overnight. And then for the next 5 days, I drank just a little bit in the morning and I talked to her, and she's a grass. And I was just talking about how grasses grow and how they can just take over
Wow.
space. So this grass energy's come into our body and just taken over. And then we're like, well, and she's also been incredibly mistreated, a lot of slave labor and a
Yeah.
lot of just torturous energy around her. So once I linked with her in that way, I went, oh, okay, this is making more sense how this feels in my body and why it doesn't feel good, not just physically but energetically. So yeah, I don't think the chocolate companies can completely ruin the spirit of the plant medicine that is cacao, and chocolate is amazing. I love chocolate, but I definitely, if I'm going to have some chocolate on rare occasion now, I source from organic and places that are sourcing and supporting farmers, and I want it to feel intentional in my body. But the medicine's always there. I'll tell you a story because I feel like she would be okay with me telling you this. I won't say her name, but I have a student who I was would have cacao ceremonies, and something had happened, and she was blamed for something that she did not do, and they arrested her. And what happens,
Wow.
you don't have the money to get a lawyer and do all the things. You sit in jail and wait for a court date, which she did for a year. Did
Whoa.
not see daylight, did not have fresh air. Um, and I would email her and I would say, we're having cacao ceremony this Saturday. And she would get, a little styrofoam cup and a little thing of Swiss Miss from the commissary or whatever. She would make her Swiss Miss and go to her, I'm about to cry just telling you the story, go to her cell and she would pray over that Swiss Miss and she would link with us
Wow.
month. And she told me how that was a lifeline for her. And she was linking with the plant medicine through Swiss Miss, which has got to be the most over-processed sugary thing on the planet, but it still was in there. And the link was there, and the ritual and the ceremony and the community was holding her. And when she finally got out, which she needed to, um, she told me what a lifeline that was for her. And it was just such a beautiful story to hear. And the plants, even in that over processed, sugary sugary thing, she was linking with cacao with us and finding a tether to keep her sane in that experience. And so yeah, it's powerful. It doesn't matter if it's pure stuff straight from the indigenous people like I'm working with in ceremony. What matters is your intention. What
Hmm.
matters is your intention and your relationship with the plants. It's all about relationship.
So, as a shaman, a working shaman, and you do ceremonies as well, what can a person expect? Why do we reach out to a shaman? What is it? What is that experience like? You know,
Well, it's
define what your superpowers are.
my superpowers. It's interesting how just listening to what you were sharing and recognizing that I don't know if it's like this for others, but some of my superpowers are still superpowers from when I was little, and some of them have shifted. Ever since I was little, I could see like the light in people even if they couldn't, and I always wanted to affirm that. I think
Mhm.
because I wanted to, that's part of my love language. So when I come on the show and just say, I just want to affirm and reflect, I mean that. I
Yeah.
love to be a cosmic cheerleader for people and really be able to see their light within them and empower them to not only see that, but live into it and embody it and be empowered by it and be in their personal power with a big P, not a little p like we see in the world, right? Um,
Hmm.
so I think that's a big piece of it. And I mean, I have the tools, the soul retrieval and the past life work and the karma clearing and the lineage work and um, helping people get connected with their guides is something I really love to do. I do that in every session, no matter what we're working with. A big piece of the way I work with people is I was trained traditionally where you do the work on their behalf, right? You would shamanic journey on someone's behalf and then tell them. But what my guides showed me was bring them into the process, empower them to keep connecting with their guides. This is not, I think that's a big part of how shamanism has shifted, is it's not just meant to be held by certain people. Certain shamans like myself might do certain things that other people may not have interest in doing or feel called to, but we're all allowed to connect with our guides. We're all allowed to talk to the angels. We're all allowed to talk to source, spirit, divinity. We're all allowed to talk to the ancestors. So I like to empower people to remember how to do that for themselves. We always need somebody to sit with and get that reflection, but there's so much we can do for ourselves and gain and be empowered by when we can link in. So the first thing I do is empower people to find their sacred space in the realms and start talking to their guides and create that relationship so they can continue with the tools that I then work with them. When I do a soul retrieval, I walk you through the process so that you are aware of what's happening and you can tend to that little soul aspect that you've now brought back. For me, it's very much about doing this with the client, so that you have ownership of it, so that you're empowered. I never want to be the one sitting up on the whatever on the stage or whatever going, I bestow upon you my wisdom. You must come to me for more wisdom. Or I'm like, I'll bestow upon you some wisdom and I'll teach you how to have your own wisdom because you got it. I want to reflect your wisdom, right? So that's a big piece of how I work that might be a little different than people who are working more traditionally. But yeah, I really do believe that there's so many things I want to say right now. Let me bring my little Piscean container to get my brain focused. My little step 4 Pisces needs to find. There's so many ways to go with this. I'm so excited. Just empowering people to live into their purpose and their mission. And it's very similar to what you do, just different tools. It's
Yeah.
like you have the information, here's some tools to work with that, but also to get them linked in personal relationship with their guides, with the realms, with the unseen realms, with their ancestors. You know, there's so many people who'll come and say, I feel my grandmother with me. I'm like, let's talk to her. She
Mm.
passed away. Yeah, let's talk to her. Let's link you in. Let's find those gifts and that medicine. And I find that a lot of people who sit with me for whatever it is, no matter what we're working with, because we really can work with anything. And if there's something that I don't feel I'm the best person for, I refer it. But we do the work in the realms, and your guides can support with anything. They really can support with anything. And so many people really do show up ready to step into their mission and their personal power and just need some support and clarity on how to do that, you know. And so we do the healing to kind of uncover anything less than love, is how I would put it.
Oh, that's a beautiful way of putting it. And I
Mhm.
love that you're empowering. I think that that's, I always say there's so much room in the light work industry. It's like there's 9 billion souls, most of them are lost.
Mhm.
The faster you can do this, the more we can move on to the next client because there's a long wait for enlightenment, as far as it's happening. So this idea that it's exclusive or I'm the only way and that sort of thing seems so antiquated, and sort of what organized religions seem to do. It's like as soon as you mention you heard from God, they're like, oh no, you didn't. They shut you right back down. Which is interesting. What is what'd you call it? A soul?
Soul
I can't
retrieval.
retrieval. Yes, thank you. I was looking for that. What is a soul retrieval?
So in shamanic terms, when we have scary things happen or we have trauma, what will happen is aspects of our soul will disengage in order to keep us feeling safe. So it's like in somatic experiencing for the therapists out there who or those who healers who know that term. When you see a gazelle running from something that's chasing it to eat it, like a lion or something, often if they're caught, they'll just kind of go limp, right? It's like they leave their body before the trauma can happen. Well, people are similar in that when there's trauma, these soul aspects will kind of disengage to make sure that we're not taking the brunt of it so that we can, it's a way of, in a way, we're kind of shutting down so that we don't
Yeah.
feel the trauma as badly and we can survive it. And so that's a very highly developed way of protecting ourselves. At the same time, if we don't bring those soul pieces back, then you can have someone who's 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old who's got this 4-year-old self influencing their behavior because they're still stuck back in that 4-year-old trauma, and they need to come back. They need to be integrated. We don't necessarily have to do it for every single time you had something happen. Often those pieces will be ready to integrate without necessarily being individualized, but there are definitely times when we need to go retrieve that aspect of ourselves and bring them back home and find out what they need and empower them to start integrating and growing up into us with their needs met. So it's retroactive healing with our needs met from the age of whatever that situation was. But I
Mm,
can also work with people around abortions, miscarriages, stillbirths, and doing soul retrieval around those energies and working with the
mm,
souls of those little ones. So soul retrieval can take on different nuances, but just individually, just bringing back those aspects so that we're not still living from that even inadvertently or unconsciously. It's not influencing us in a negative way because we have all our pieces back. And that's a shamanic perspective that I've found very vital in my work for myself and others. Makes a huge difference. And then cord clearing is another thing. I don't do cutting. I don't cut anything. Anything we're in resistance to, we know persists. And ultimately, we're all connected. So if I'm just like, cut, go away, then it just shows up in a different form. It just shows up in a different experience. And so what my guides taught me was to do cord clearing and forgiveness work and to do it throughout lifetimes, timelines, dimensions, and realms so that
mm.
we're covering all the bases. Because I don't know what I did in that other lifetime, and I don't know what you did in that other lifetime, and what we did in this lifetime is somehow connected to it. And so cleaning up the energy so that we can clear the unhealthy attachments and empower the healthy connections, that's one of my most popular videos on YouTube is the cord clearing and forgiveness video. I mean, I will have people email that I've never even spoken to them who will say, a friend referred me to this. Thank you so much. Because I just put it out there. I recorded it and put it out there. You can do it with me if you want to get linked with your guides, and especially if it's a cord clearing with somebody that's just, it's personal and might not be easy to do on your own. But there's lots of cord clearing and forgiveness you can do through that shamanic journey on your own. And cord clearing has been a huge way to, what I realized, Christopher, is after, I don't know, 10 or 15 or 20 years of doing this work, I walk people through the cord clearing. So I will say the words first, and I will say the name of the person they're clearing with because they repeat after me. And I realized I probably cleared cords with like thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people that I've never even met. And I was like, whoa, that's cleaning up some energy. Not that I even had anything with them, but it's just, I just realized that's totally an aside. But I just remember when I had that recognition, like I've cleared energy in a good way. So there's only healthy connections with human beings I will never meet. But all of our ancestors are connected somewhere.
Hmm.
So I just thought that was really fascinating when I finally dropped in one day. That I've done this so long with so many people that I'm getting it too.
Yeah, it's almost, well, because it's cords, it's almost like spiritual healing that goes viral or something. Like it just starts, you're gonna get to heaven and have a standing ovation. They're all just gonna be like, thank you. Half of heaven is gonna be grateful that you
Thank
came
you
and
for
weed
letting
ate
me
all these
go.
cords.
My gosh. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
funny.
You also talk about having a healing team in the unseen realms, which I thought was a great expression. And I saw in one of your videos, I can't remember if it was a podcast. I was, doing some deep research for this, and you were just like, I don't have time. I have to clean my house, so I'm just going to hand this off to my healing team in the realms. What do you mean
Yeah,
by that?
that's funny. That's exactly what actually was going into a session with a client. So, and I didn't have time, but someone had reached out. I actually have on my website, I think it's only like $23. It's a recording of a workshop I recently did called Finding Your Healing Team in the Realms. So if
Oh,
anybody's
cool.
interested, you can keep that recording, and check that out. But I work with guides in the unseen realms, and because I do work as a healer, I often, and in the past, would often have people reach out and say, I've got this going on. Can you send Reiki? Can you send healing energy? And so what I learned was that we can delegate. And I have a specific group of guides that I call my healing team. And so when people would reach out and say, I need support, and they couldn't necessarily get to me, or whatever the situation was, I would sit down, I would see my healing team going to them, I would close my eyes, I was very focused. I would, watch them, we would do mojo, and then I would so one day, this was years ago, I was getting ready to see a client. I got a message from somebody that they needed some healing support. I said, I'll send my healing team. And before I had a chance to sit down and focus and be part of that process, the client knocked on the door and I had to go into a healing session. So I come out of the healing session, client leaves, and I open up my email to a message from this person saying, oh my gosh, all these things happened. Thank you so much. That was so helpful. And I went, oh, I didn't do anything. And then I went, right, because I don't have to do anything. I have a team that will do this for me, Bloom. It's not about you. It's about my intention. So that's when I went, oh, I can delegate. Right. I'm trying to be part of the process to learn what they're doing, but they're like, we got this. We have a relationship with you. We know what you need and we know what they need. So now if people reach out, I say I'm sending my healing team and they work with them. Sometimes people will tell me, I was meditating and I was having a hard time and you showed up, or I was in a ceremony and I was having a hard time and you showed up, or then and they'll, do you know that you were there? I'm like, no, I was busy making dinner. But my soul is available.
Right.
I have very healthy boundaries, and I'm also clear that my soul is available to them without it draining me, and especially to clients and students, and sometimes people who even just see me in an interview will say, I heard you talking to me in my head. I'm like, great, my soul is available to you. And it doesn't drain me because it's happening in the astral, it's happening in the unseen realms. But everybody can have a team. You may not want like a healing team if that's not what you're focused on. But everybody can have guides in the realms that they can send with their kids to school, or send with their partner, or send to a friend who needs help. To me, it's a great way to keep support there 24/7 that I couldn't possibly sit and focus on them 24/7. So I have a team in the realms that does that. And archangels are part of my team because that's my family. That's my
Yeah,
tribe.
I feel you there. Yeah, I must get, I don't know, 3 or 5 emails a week of like, you visit me in your dreams, in my dreams last night. I was just like, great. I'm glad my higher self is working. No wonder I'm so tired this morning. I'm glad, but no, I seem to do a lot of work in the astral plane. So I think that's kind of part of a light worker's role today.
Well,
I want to quickly just ask, you're onto a new education right now. So as if you're not educated enough, you're opening up more.
hold on, hold on. Remember that thing you said earlier about if it's not really, what was it you said? Like you thought you were going to do something, but if it's not really what you love, don't do it.
Yeah.
Something like that earlier. So I did go back to college during the pandemic. I was 50 years old and I was a freshman in college because I rock.
That is
We
cool.
we were in lockdown and I thought, I keep thinking maybe one day I'll finish like a degree. So, okay. I mean, I'm talking undergraduate degree. I'm hanging out with 18 to 23-year-olds. It's amazing. They're
That's
keeping me,
cool.
it's actually been very cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
And it's been using a whole other part of my brain, and I'm studying religious studies and it's fascinating and it's just been really great. I'm also a senior and really ready to be done. I feel like a 22-year-old who's like really ready to be done. I've hit the senioritis phase. But I was looking at grad school. I've been learning Sanskrit. I love the yogic traditions, and I don't mean the yoga. I mean, I love the yoga that we do today, but I'm talking about the ancient yogic traditions from Buddhism and from Hinduism and way back. Um,
Yeah.
so I had been
The
looking,
Vedas and
yeah, exactly, and looking into studying more Sanskrit and learning more mantras and maybe going to grad school. And the energy, like they weren't giving me real clear information. The school I wanted to go to, they were in an in-between place. Anyway, the energy just wasn't, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. That's kind of
okay.
that's where I am in my world. Like it's a full-bodied yes when it's a yes, and I wasn't getting a full-bodied yes. And then my plant medicine training really started to pick up, and I went, ah, that's why. So all of that study that I was excited about when I last talked to you is it's not that it's not there, but it's not, it doesn't feel like part of this next place that Pisces are stepping into for me. It feels
Mm,
like I want to put it off a year and stop being in class for a hot minute, in that kind of class, higher education kind of class. And I'm spending more time in Peru and spending more time studying and training there. So I realized that's where my heart was really calling me. But you know, that piece around Pisces, or like you got some karma to clear and you don't necessarily want to do it. I think I was feeling really drawn to grad school because that just felt easier.
yeah.
And yeah, so sitting with La Madre and going, ah, yeah, this is that stuff. I kind of really just didn't want to. I do so much mojo. Do I really have to go there? And then I went, yeah, I want to go there. I always want to go there. Who am I kidding? So for about 6 months, I thought I was going a different direction, and I might still do grad school because I can do both. But I just didn't want you to get too excited because I'm a Pisces. I go with the flow. I have changed my mind. And
You have
so,
full right. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think
it's
you're actually articulating exactly what my message to Pisces was tonight. That like to find the emotional boundaries of your comfort zones of your purpose, because Pisces do try a little bit of everything. That's kind of part of and I think it's review of past lives too. I think so I would almost think if this is a reading that perhaps you're actually remembering the Vedas from past lives, that you are integrating past life wisdom. It's maybe not new at all, but I thought it spoke to really how cool you are. And I do think you are damn cool. You're the real deal. You go to Peru, you do the cacao, you're super educated, you practice what you preach, and I wanted our audience to see that too, what a real shaman looks like, because I think you are one. I really do. You're doing, and your energy is super cool. People are loving the comments.
oh, I
And
can't even see the comments. Everybody disappeared once I got into Zoom.
well,
So,
it'll all be recorded. You can go back and play back your interview, and it'll show you people reacting to different things you're saying, which I think is super fascinating because you're getting a lot of props. People are loving you, and I'd like to introduce them to you to them in the sense of your website is bloompost.com. You've got a bunch of ways to work with you. You mentioned already something for $23. You have a free winter activation. So for people who want to try something free, what exactly is that?
well, the winter activation from last winter solstice, I think, just happened to be at the top of the page. But if you go to my website, there's things for purchase and there's things for free. I have a whole page of activations, some of which are free and some of which you pay, I think, $18. I'm big on keeping it affordable.
Yeah, you're very fair.
I'm more than fair.
You are.
I'm basically covering, because I'm all about let's make some money and be prosperous and abundant, all of us, and let's thrive. And I want this medicine to get out to as many people as possible. I really do.
Yeah.
So that's available. My YouTube channel it's just Bloom Post on YouTube, and it's got all sorts of videos that are all free, of course. And then I have a monthly mentorship. It's only $22 a month. We meet the first Tuesday of every month. I have people in Europe who only watch the recordings because they can't be
Oh,
there
that's cool.
in the morning. So then you get to journey with me live. I teach a little bit and always lead a shamanic journey. We have an amazing community there. We have a private Facebook group. Um, I have ceremonies in Western North Carolina, just outside of Asheville, if you happen to be local. But even if you're not, I have people fly in from all over the country to sit in cacao ceremony or tobacco ceremony. There's some other things that I offer that I won't talk about here.
Okay.
Um, just medicine ceremonies that we won't
Yeah, I'm
get.
sure.
Um, and also, I do past life readings over Zoom. I do shamanic healing sessions. They don't have to be in person because we do the work in the realms. And so I do those over the phone generally just because we have so much screen time. Um,
Yeah.
just trying to, and people, I know people want to look at me, but you don't have to look at me to do the work, I promise. It's kind of nice to get away from that screen and just put your earbuds in, keep the phone away or something. And so, yeah, there's lots of different ways. And I even do email readings if somebody has a question. But if you really want to do some healing work, and even if you want to do past life healing work or get psychic information, I really prefer to do it within the context of a shamanic healing session because then we can work with it. When I do a past life reading, I'll give you information, but we're not going into how to work with all of it. And if you want
Yeah.
to heal that past life, then we can do that in a shamanic healing session. And so I love all the things I offer, but if you really want to get into it and really do some deep work together and link with your guides, all the things I mentioned before, shamanic healing sessions are definitely the way to go.
And she's always this soothing, everybody. Like, you have a soothe, your voice has a soothe. You're very comfy. You make me feel at home and at ease. So I think in my next round of dark shadow work, I'm going to reach out to you most likely. I encourage other people too. And I say that all jokingly, of course, but no, I think if I'm going to go in the dark, you are the perfect companion to go
Well,
there. I think,
I,
really.
I appreciate that reflection because I've been there.
Yeah.
That story of the man who falls in the hole and so comes by and throws him a prayer, and somebody else comes by and throws him some food. Then his friend comes by and the friend jumps in the hole, and the first guy says, "What'd you do? Now we're both in here." And he goes, "Yeah, but I know a way out." That story,
Mm,
right? So I told it really fast and didn't do it justice, but I've walked through the depths of hell. I've walked through initiation after initiation after initiation. I've walked through so much shadow. And so people will often say, "Oh, I don't want to freak you out, but," and I'm like, "Oh, please. I'm not freak outable at this point. I've been there. I feel you." Um, and so I feel honored that people will sit with me and ask me to be a guide, and I love to do it, and it's what I'm called to do.
yeah.
It's a calling. It's not something I ever consciously chose. It's a calling, and I just learned over the years. I used to be real serious about myself. I used to take myself real serious when I was younger. And now I'm like, I don't have to take me seriously, but I take the work seriously. And I know that people just want to feel loved and safe. That's
Yeah.
real. We just want to feel loved and safe. And I just absolutely, absolutely, absolutely love the work I get to do. When even when you're like Friday, I'm like Monday. Like I feel that way. I don't have a sense of like, oh, good, the weekend I'm getting away from, and I'm like, no, the weekend means now I get to do ceremony. Like I love that I love what I get to do. It's such an
Yes.
honor, but I also absolutely love what I get to do on this planet. And I want to empower other people to get to do what they absolutely love because I'm so passionate about it. I just love it. Even when things are sucking, I love it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying I don't have bad days. I'm just saying, I feel you're called to the work you do, and you can
I
feel the
love
difference.
it.
It never feels like a job.
No,
Never.
no, I mean, I do it sick, like, yeah, if anything, I have to slow down at times. I love it so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that shines through your work and your energy. Everyone, please send some love and prayers here to Bloom Post. Please visit her website, bloompost.com. Check out our YouTube, Bloom Post. Your name's amazing, by the way, also. We'll
I
say
love
that
when
for
you're
the next.
like, you're gonna bloom post, you're gonna bloom post when you're talking to one of the signs
You're in
earlier.
my psyche. I kept using the word bloom, and I just find like, fine, it's Bloom Post.
Yeah, that's funny.
I'll just come out and be honest with it. But yeah, terrific. Thank you for coming on tonight. I sincerely care and love you. Thank you. You're such a nice, wonderful soul. We're lucky to have you on this planet, and I'm going to come do ceremony with you at some point. I know one of our producers is going to soon, so that'll
Tomorrow.
be interesting. Yeah, absolutely. So I'll have some inside stories, and if you wouldn't mind staying after in the backstage, just so we can say goodbye to you and not
Yeah.
just pop off, that'd be great.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. This was really fun. Thank you, Christopher.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure. And next time I'll see you in person. So I'm gonna get a hug and I'm gonna get a cacao. I think it'd be great. So
It will.
thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao for now. All right, that was wonderful. You can see why I love Bloom so much. I can't recall how I met her. I know she got I think she was referred to me. There was like a trade. It was like one of those people that said, "You got to meet her. She's got to meet you." I did a reading for it first, and I just loved her energy, and really represents to me the new Pisces out there and what we're seeing Pisces bloom into. Pardon the pun, but it's so true and literal. So thanks to Bloom for coming on. And, from what I understand, the people I know have worked directly with her, you're not wasting any time working with Bloom. I think, especially with, we're all doing a lot of shadow work right now. We're kind of letting go of those old stories. You can feel how gentle her energy is. I think, I, for one, like I said, will go to her next time something spooky comes up. So thank you to Bloom Post.